Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. My name is Dan Hafner, and I am very excited to join you all with another episode, another great guest I am bringing on for you guys. We're going to talk about some vibe coding stuff, and if you're regular listeners of the show, you might be maybe a little tired of this conversation. But I promise you, if you've been trying to vibe code some stuff, you've been trying to build some products. Maybe you're a solopreneur wanting to do this. Maybe you're in a business trying to do this, stick around. Eric is a very interesting person to bring on this show. Has a very well, I should say probably more experience at this than me. But I would really encourage you to stick around. I think this is going to be very enlightening. I myself am very interested to learn a little bit about this, and there's a lot of cool things going on with this whole thing. So welcome Eric to the show. But I do want to first say, as always, please like and subscribe to the show, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening or watching this show. It's really appreciated if you do that and if you share this episode. I think we're going to get into some very useful content and some useful information in here. So if you know anyone that might find value out of this, please share this episode with them. All right, without any further ado, welcome to the show, Mr. Eric Anderson. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Dan. How are you?
I'm great. I'm very excited to dive into this conversation with you. So in with risk of butchering your background and your stuff, give us 30-second overview, who you are and why we should listen to you.
Whew. Um, 28 years experience at helping to scale and grow uh, tech companies of all sizes, pure startups to billion-dollar companies, mainly in the go-to-market space, across sales, marketing, and success. Uh, I have a lot of experience and kind of fell into a habit of growing and exiting companies, and so I'm got 5 successful exits behind me now. Got introduced to Walnut from a colleague and fell in love with the problem they were trying to solve. And that is specifically how broken the B2B sales process is today, and how so many companies are so myopically focused on their own process and their own uh, uh, set of tools that they're deploying to try to go out and be successful, and they've forgotten all about the buyer and the buyer experience and the buyer journey. And so this is what we're trying to tackle at Walnut, is trying to bring and develop solutions, bring them to market that keep the buyer in mind, keep the buyer first, allow you to showcase your products early in the sales process, as opposed to that last mile where you're frustrating buyers because they just want to get their hands on the technology. So yeah, it's been a great almost a year that I've been here at Walnut now as CEO, and very excited about the success and journey ahead.
Awesome, man. Well, then, let's dive into that. That's a very interesting angle. I kind of want to maybe attack first. Is you say that in every all these businesses are seemingly worried about their own stuff, right? Like kind of it's almost like, and maybe and correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like everyone's too focused on solving their own problem and making sure that the technology that they're using is working for them, really focusing on how does this work? Is this workable? Is this doing what it should do? Rather than is this actually fulfilling the need of a customer and a client who needs it? Because as you were talking about that, I couldn't help but think back on the many conversations that I've had with people on this show, in podcasts I've been on as a guest as well. But we've talked about that I feel like I've beaten this horse to death at this point of, if you're not building something that solves a real problem, why are you building it in the first place? So yeah, tell us a little bit more about that. Where did you said you fell in love with this problem, and it seems like a very interesting problem to fall in love with. So can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think there's so many companies out there today that are just failing to recognize that the buyer is going through their own journey, regardless of where at what point they interact with the company. The introduction of AI and all the technology out there now allows them to do research at a much more efficient clip, right? Access to personalized information at their fingertips, um, and it allows them to really provide their own kind of self-service in the early parts of the sales process. By the time they start interacting with SaaS organizations or B2B organizations like Walnut, I think it's Gartner that quotes that 70 to 80% of their research is already done. And so it's no longer this old traditional sales process where companies need to be so cognizant about how do I provide the discovery mechanism? How do I go through MedPick or how do I go through some kind of qualification stages and really put them through this linear sales process? Buyers have already done a lot of this research their own by the time they pick up the phone and talk to a company. And so this this need to be aware of this process, need to be understanding where to meet your buyers where they are in this journey. Um, I think one of the most frustrating parts for buyers these days is this approach where, uh, after all this research, after all this time spent researching technology, they want to get their access on the product. They want to get their hands on the product and verify that it will actually solve their business problems. And again, we have so many stages and steps we put in front of this, so many gates that so many companies prevent them access to the technology until later in the sales process, and it frustrates buyers. So we're trying to encourage companies to be more product led. Let your product be the showcase. Let your product out into the wild, get it into the hands of people, and let that be the thing that solves their the last mile of the sales process that they're trying to be self sufficient and going through.
That's amazing. I mean, I get why you were so intrigued by this. And again, I come back to the consumer view of it. You're definitely more in the B2B side of this, but I think I've when I learned that when I got into business, like there's buyers at different levels of the journey, and you're like very unaware that you have a problem in something, and that's most likely as a sales in a sales cycle you're not going to be talking to, like you said, most of the people are going to be like, I'm aware of this problem and I'm aware of the different solutions. And, I think people, especially a lot of people, um, maybe my generation and a little bit below, really do research a ton of solutions. I was thinking about a family member of mine, who is just when it comes to buying anything, they are just like ridiculously uh, ridiculously involved in the process. Like, I remember they were trying to find the next brand of dog food for their dog, for example. And it was like weeks of like researching of like, like, oh, it does this, but it has this nutritional value, but it has this consistency, blah, 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 and it is this cost and whatever. And, that, like, I think that speaks to what you're talking about at a micro level, obviously, of when someone at that level has done that research and they're there on a call or trying to look into your product, they have already basically decided this is my solution and I just need to buy this thing. I was thinking about this. There's a tool that I want to use, a new AI tool that I found that is really, really powerful, in my opinion, from what I've seen, as far as building these tools in a document that can help you with the AI vibe coding stuff and basically go out and build your tools. And I've not seen anything like this. And I started Googling and I started chat GPTing and I started poking around and I was like, what's the price on this? And how does this work? And I've already pretty much made up my mind, like, yeah, I need this, and this is going to be something that I'm going to buy. And now, if I need to, but the process to get onto it is to actually book a call with someone. And I'm like, why can't I just buy this thing? Why does it have to be so focused on that? Why can't I just like pay for this thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's very true. Again, the amount of information that's at the fingertips of buyers these days, it's uncompared to it's been at the past, right? So how they research, how they compare products, even testing products in some cases. Um, and so it's really collapsed the early stages of this decision making process for buyers to be able to get such tailored information instantly in their journey. But I think where this data falls short, I think where AI even falls short still is, in the context and or in the confidence of making that purchase decision. You know, still made by people, human beings who need to trust that, the solution that they're gonna buy aligns to their own unique business challenges. Everyone wants to believe that they're unique and they have, such distinct business challenges that are unlike other companies. Um, that human layer of, reassurance and storytelling still matters to the process. So we find it to really need to be that flexible mix, that I think buyers today wanna get a blend of both personalization and that consumer grade experience that they have come to expect. We used to kind of view buyers as companies, but really they're just human beings, right? People just like you and I who use Netflix and Amazon and Spotify and in their personal lives, and now they expect that same level of ease and speed and relevance when they're buying enterprise software. No longer enough to just have a good product, right, and have features that kinda match up to other people's features in the organization in the market, but how do you build a great experience around that, and, around that product, and how do you make it enjoyable and easy for them to go through that buying experience of your solutions? Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big kinda shift in the market, and some of this is driven by AI, some of it's driven by the complexity is just the sales process has gotten so complex and so cumbersome, and I think buyers have gotten more sophisticated, past where companies have kind of evolved to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. The amount of, like you said, the amount of information has never been higher. But okay, so yeah, I wanted to. I led the show with this topic of vibe coding that I want to talk to, and I want to make sure we get to that, and we have time for that. So, I'm curious to get your take. It's one of the biggest and really the hottest debate kind of in this software world right now, at least for us who are in it all the time. And my question to you, as a professional in this space, do you think that these vibe coding tools like the Lovables, the Replets, the Base 44s, there's new ones all the time. Do you think that these kinds of tools are creating a are taking over the future of software development and revolutionizing this, or are they all just kind of creating a mess of competition and crappy products? Like, where do you stand on this topic?
Actually, I think both.
Interesting.
But I do feel that the messiness or the lack of clarity in the market right now is due to the early stages of this revolution. Um, and it's like anything that's so new, I think it's gonna time to actually, find its footing, but there's no doubt vibe coding and AI have the potential to revolutionize software development, no doubt. Massive increase in productivity, efficiency, creativity. Um, Vibe coding, which, as you know, just involves creating a positive and collaborative environment for coding, um, can certainly lead to better communication and teamwork amongst your developers. Um, the AI technologies that are out today, such as like machine learning algorithms and automated code generating tools, uh, we've seen streamline the development process and help even our own developers write cleaner and more efficient code. So I think those are going to have a massive impact in the industry. But I think where there's still concern are companies relying too heavily on AI and automated tools that lead to this messiness or this unstable code. Um, it's critical still that developers have a deep understanding of programming principles and best practices in order to effectively use the technologies that are being created, right, or being generated. Um, and I think it's important for them to strike a balance between leveraging all these tools for productivity, ensuring that the quality and the maintainability of the code they produce is there. So it's certainly a balance. I don't think it's all in on one and or the other, but there's no doubt vibe coding AI certainly have the potential of enhancing the software development space. But I think important for developers to approach them responsibly to avoid the messy or unusable code that could be a result of just not following great development practices and standards.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So, yeah, no, I think that's a very interesting take because you kind of got me thinking about, like I told you, I have my very first speaking engagement here in Pittsburgh at the end of this month. I'm very excited for. I'm speaking at Carnegie Mellon University. And this is kind of the topic that I get to speak on is, and I already have actually out of all the sessions that day, I think I have the most registered people, and it's towards the end of the day. So I'm like pretty excited about, like there clearly seems to be an interest in this topic, and the topic of my speak, or I can't remember exactly what it is. It's like how to leverage vibe coding without building garbage. It's like something like that. It's like
Yep.
kind of what like how do you build these things without building, this unusable garbage at the end of it, right? Um, and I came up with that because I've realized that, the more tools that I've built for myself and the more tools that I've built for my clients, you're exactly right. Like you can get into, you can kind of lead yourself up shit creek really without a paddle. If you really don't know what you're getting into. I'm actually facing that with a client project right now in a tool. I won't say the name of it, but just like we try to make changes, try to tweak this, try to tweak that, and it's just it's either not taking it or it's breaking everything and we have to revert. And it's incredibly frustrating because we've already showed that to the client. And now they're like, okay, we want to improve this. And then like it's almost like we can't do anything else. You can't like go any further. So it's very, very interesting and kind of annoying at some point. So I'm very interested to see kind of how this engagement goes and what ends up happening with this. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of I see what you're talking about where developers can leverage this kind of stuff. If you really know what you're doing, it can really speed up a lot of things. You know what I mean?
Definitely, and I think this is where it's kind of this interesting intersection in the markets today, where because of these technologies, you've got a lot of companies who are opting to build their own software, right, and leverage things like vibe coding or leverage things like uh, tools and these solutions to build their own solutions, as opposed to going and hire a third party or go out to the market and look for SaaS providers to provide it for them. Um, and I think because the barrier of building these tools has come down so much, it's a great evaluation for companies to go through. Should we build this ourselves? Should we go and outsource this or find a SaaS provider to provide that product for us? And I think in the past, the SaaS providers would just rely upon features to try to prove their value in their solutions and uh, not be focused where I think they should be on the business impact or the outcomes that they help drive for these companies. And I think this is the big difference, and this is the big separation of where this really goes. Do companies build their own using these solutions, or they go out and still use the SaaS market to go out and buy these solutions? Um, no longer is a question, can your product do this? Because anybody can build a product that does something, but it's does your product get me there faster? Does it get me there more securely? Does it get me there with less friction than doing it myself, right? It's these value propositions that I think need to be answered in this evaluation of whether to build or buy. And I think the companies that are focused on this ROI, the business impacts and the outcomes that your product can derive for companies, and act like a strategic vendor to their customers, I think are the ones that will win in the long run. That true value in this process isn't just the code, right? It's not just, can I create code that builds a product that solves a problem, but it's also the years of expertise that have gone into the solution, right? I mean, take Walnut, for example, 6 years of doing this and 450 some odd customers. there's a ton of feedback that you get in that cycle of listening to customers and putting it back into the product and tweaking the product, or to your point, not tweaking the product because customers don't always know what they need and don't always know what they really want in the process. And so uh, it's I think it's a tough evaluation for companies to build versus buy, and certainly I think this opportunity is becoming more and more available to these vibe coding solutions and uh, and the proliferation of AI.
Yeah. I mean, so can you give us like a real world example of a company that was kind of like, should we build this? Should we outsource this? Could we use this tool? Like, do you have anyone that you could point to as an example for that?
Um, we do quite a bit of business with Cisco today, Cisco Systems, big customer of ours. Cisco is very savvy, right? They are very good at this evaluation point of, do we build this ourselves? Do we create something internally that solves our unique business challenge in the way that we specifically want to go to market using this technology? Or do we go out and we seek a third party to go out and do this for us? And they're also very savvy and good at making sure uh, they input your roadmap, and so they're kinda getting best of both worlds, right? They're getting something that they want to develop and to change over time, but they're also very savvy at understanding maintenance costs, and they've got homegrown systems that they've been developing over the years and maintaining over the years that have grown into these behemoths of systems that take tens of millions of dollars to maintain it just from a maintenance standpoint annually.
Yeah,
And so it's this, cost benefit analysis, I think is, you're certainly lowering the ability to create a tool on the front end because of, solutions like vibe coding and AI, but at the same time, it doesn't take away that how do you get the domain expertise? How do you get something that's truly deep and rich, from a functionality standpoint? And how do you make sure that you're not building a behemoth over time that you end up spending a lot of money in maintaining over the years? So it's always that trade-off analysis. I think they're very savvy. They're very good at that analysis. The bigger I think vendors' footprints gets with them, it's always this analysis of, is it too big, and at what point do we get to the point where it's a core system that needs to be insourced into Cisco as opposed to outsourced? But super we have a lot of really big companies we deal with in the enterprise, similar to Cisco. They're very savvy at that decision point and that evaluation of at what point does it make sense for us to just own this and not have to rely upon a third party to provide it to us.
yeah. No, that's a good example. Very good example. So yeah, I got like maybe one more question, but I'm very interested. You know, I just keep thinking about this sales process, and then like kind of the sales, and then I mean, it's crazy the competitive landscape, right? That's going on today with this. Like you said, it democratized um, so many things for so many people. Um, but you know what can we do as SaaS people? I'm always looking for enablement tools and different tactics to level up my business and myself, right? So what can we be doing to um, to be outpacing people out there to in a crowded red ocean of this world that it's becoming. What can we do to stand out? What can we do to get an edge?
It's a great question. Um, and I think it's a really hard one for companies to tackle because there's so many different things that could hit the priority list and you want to focus on. Um, I'll tell you what we've been doing over the last 9 months, since my joining the company, is really doubling down on clarity of value and that message of what value does our company provide to you, and the enablement around that. So those are the two areas that I think we've really spent a lot of time to really make sure that it's crystal clear. Um, do our members truly understand, and are we communicating the value that we provide to them? Um, so I guess the advice would be, use tools that bring the product to life in the sales process, right? So whether it's interactive demos that is a way to put your product first and foremost and in the hands of customers early in the process, throughout the entire process. Personalized onboarding experiences, another one that come to mind of
Mm,
how do you take that experience and really personalize it for the companies you're delivering it to. Data-driven insights that kinda guide your conversation to value and those rich insights that your product can provide to provide it the really hones down on the value and the ROI that you're providing your customers. Um, and I think the best sales enablement tools are the ones that bridge the gap between what your product does and the specific problem that the buyers are trying to solve, right? The companies are trying to solve. And that gap is where I think a lot of companies fail to recognize the more you can close the gap and you can provide clarity between those 2, I think the more successful you'll be with each one of your customer engagements.
yeah, those are all really good, and I love that idea and that concept of getting your product in the customer's hands faster. And I think that's actually something a lot of people maybe, or at least some people, could probably struggle with because you always want to think like I think one a lot, and I work a lot on the consumer side, right? But I think a lot of people are like, well, we don't want to put I don't want to put this out there because I'm afraid of somebody taking the idea. But I also want to make sure when I put it out there that it's properly paywalled and monetizable so that I'm not just putting, if this does take off, I get a bunch of free users or something like that.
Right.
Which is interesting because it almost is self defeating in that idea of getting the product in people's hands because you need it to be in their hands.
That's right.
Yeah, it's an interesting paradigm, you know.
Yeah. No, it absolutely is. I mean, this whole notion of PLG, right? The promise of PLG, in the last, uh, 70 years specifically has been, go out and, flood the market, with a bunch of usage of your product, and your super users, your power users will pick it up on their own, right? Especially in the technical communities, developers want to get their hands on it. They wanna play with it. They wanna dissect it and see, and how much it provides, again, a fit to their specific business problem, and, uh, I think it's a notion that is gonna come back around given the complexity of where sales has gone and where the process is led people. Um, this way of getting your product to be the showcase for you, getting it in the hands of people, uh, I think it's less about competition these days and can someone else go out and build a product that looks like this and is designed like this and acts like this, but it's really that, again, that domain expertise and that deep, deep understanding of how it's gonna solve their specific business problem and how we can deliver that time to value in a very, very crisp, clean manner. Um, onboarding is critical, right? Onboarding experience of any, I think, SaaS provider is that first stage of how do you get people to value? How do you get them using it, engaged
Yeah,
with it?
yeah. Mm. Good stuff, man. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. Well, I think that's probably going to be a wrap for this show. This has been very very insightful. I really appreciated all of the information that you were able to. You got my wheels spinning quite a bit. I think this is very interesting. Some things I have not thought about, and I appreciate you breaking down the vibe coding stuff. That's very very helpful as well. So. So if we want to learn more about Mr. Eric Anderson or Walnut, where can we go?
You can go to walnut.io, come, see some, online, demos. You'll see, a bunch of examples we have from customers that we've delivered, throughout the last 6 years. Come play around with our interactive deal rooms, new technology we just launched, and, come, yeah, come have a chat. We're always here to chat with everyone.
Nice. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, as always, those links will be in the show notes below. And yeah, man, I think this has been a very, very insightful conversation. I'm really excited to go back and listen to this as well. I think there's a lot of nuggets in there that I might pick up the second time I go through, which usually happens. Um, but man, very, very good stuff. So thank you so much, Eric, for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Great to see you.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that is it for this episode. As always, you can go over to walnut.io. The link is in the show notes there. And then you can check out all of that stuff they got going on. So I hope you got some value out of this. Maybe got to think a little bit differently about, you know, B2B sales, some what it's like to get your product out there, all these different things. And if, as always, if you found value or you think someone would have value out of this, please feel free to share this episode with them and leave us a rating and review. It really, really helps the show grow. All right, guys, that is all for this episode. As always, appreciate all of you, and we will talk next time. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bites, your go-to show for software business and technology. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated with our latest episodes, insights, and stories. Hungry for more? Dive deeper into the world of no-code by visiting dapanacode.com. Your journey to building amazing software without coding skills starts there. Connect with like-minded creators and unlock a world of resources tailored just for you. Subscribe now. Explore Dapper No Code and let's innovate together.